Rock bottom is not the end of you. It's the raw beginning of who you are meant to become. Most people fear collapse. They see failure, heartbreak, loss, or defeat as evidence that they're finished, as if life has signed the final chapter of their story. But the truth is, the deepest cracks in your life are often the exact places where transformation begins. You cannot rebuild without first dismantling what no longer serves you. Rock bottom strips away illusions. It takes from you the masks you wore, the roles you clung to, the identities you thought defined you. It forces you to confront yourself, not the curated version of you that others see, but the unfiltered reality of your choices, your patterns, your truth. That confrontation is painful, yes, but it's also sacred. When you find yourself at the bottom, it's not punishment, it's purification. The noise of the world gets quiet down there, and you begin to hear what you couldn't hear when life was comfortable. Your inner voice at rock bottom, your soul whispers, this is not where your story ends. It reminds you that everything broken can be rebuilt, everything lost can be rediscovered, and everything shattered can be pieced back together in a form stronger than before. Think about it. Skyscrapers aren't built on shaky ground. Engineers dig deep, clear out the debris, and create a foundation solid enough to carry immense weight. Your rock bottom is that excavation. It's life digging into the soil of your existence to prepare you for heights you haven't yet imagined.
So instead of resenting the fall, lean into it. Instead of saying, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Because every bottom holds a lesson, and every lesson holds a key. The key to strength, the key to clarity, the key to your rebirth. The greatest transformations don't happen when you're comfortable. They happen when you're stripped bare, forced to face yourself, and invited to rise. And when you rise from rock bottom, you don't just stand, you soar. You carry with you a resilience, a depth, and a gratitude that only those who have been broken can understand. Purpose is the compass of transformation. Without it, you may rebuild your life, but you'll find yourself wandering in circles, achieving things that look good on the outside but leave you empty within. Purpose is what gives direction to your effort, meaning to your pain, and depth to your victories. If you want to rebuild yourself in 2025, you cannot do it only for recognition, wealth, or comfort. Those are fragile motivators. You must anchor your rebuilding in something larger than yourself. Purpose is what sustains you when excitement fades, when challenges pile up, and when the easy option is to give up.
The first step is to understand that purpose is not always loud. It doesn't arrive as a grand announcement or a sudden lightning bolt. Often it begins as a whisper, a nudge, a pull towards something that matters deeply to you. It might be the desire to serve, to create, to heal, to teach, to protect, or to innovate. Purpose is less about what you do and more about why you do it. It is not found in titles or positions, but in alignment, aligning your actions with your values, your gifts with the needs of the world, your story with the impact you want to leave behind. But to discover this purpose, you must be willing to slow down. Too many people rush through life checking boxes, graduate, get a job, make money, buy things, without ever asking, why am I here? What am I truly building? When you stop and reflect, you begin to see patterns in your experiences. The hardships you've endured, the talents you've been given, the passions that won't leave you alone, all of these are clues. Nothing in your story is wasted. Even the pain has purpose, especially the pain, because the struggles you've survived often equip you to help others who are still in the dark. Living with purpose doesn't mean your life suddenly becomes easy. In fact, it often becomes harder, but it becomes meaningful. And meaning is stronger than comfort. When you are guided by purpose, you can endure discomfort, rejection, and setbacks because you know they are not in vain. You know they are part of a bigger picture. Purpose gives you resilience, the ability to rise again and again because your why is bigger than your obstacles. And here's the key, purpose isn't about you alone. Rebuilding yourself is not just so you can shine brighter, it's so you can light the way for others. True purpose is always connected to service. It's about taking what you've learned, what you've overcome, what you've built, and using it to elevate someone else. That's where fulfillment lives. That's where lasting joy comes from. Not in accumulation, but in contribution. Not in what you can get, but in what you can give.
So in 2025, Ask yourself the harder questions. What breaks my heart that I can help heal? What problems do I feel called to solve? What gifts do I have that can make a difference? These questions may not have immediate answers, but sitting with them will guide you. Purpose is not discovered in a single moment. It is lived into step by step, choice by choice, as you align your life with what truly matters.
When you live from purpose, your rebuilding becomes unstoppable. You are no longer swayed by every opinion, every setback, every doubt. You become anchored, steady, focused. And the best part, purpose has a way of multiplying. When you live it out, you inspire others to find theirs. Your courage gives others permission to be courageous. Your service sparks service in others. Your light becomes contagious.
Rebuilding yourself in 2025 is not just about becoming stronger, healthier, or more disciplined. It's about aligning all those pieces with your deeper why. Because when you know your purpose, everything else falls into place. Your discipline has meaning. Your health has direction. Your environment has intention. Your solitude has clarity. Your discomfort has value. And your rock bottom becomes the very foundation of a life lived on purpose.
So make this year the year you stop drifting and start directing, the year you stop living by accident and start living by intention, the year you rebuild not just a stronger version of yourself, but a truer one driven by meaning, anchored in purpose, and unshakable in the face of anything life throws your way. Look around at your life and you'll notice something undeniable. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. The people you spend time with, the spaces you live in, the routines you keep, all of these act as silent architects, building or breaking the version of yourself you are becoming. If you want to rebuild in 2025, you cannot ignore the power of environment. Because no matter how strong your willpower is, if you keep placing yourself in toxic soil, you cannot expect to grow into something healthy and whole.
Think about the people closest to you. They are either pulling you upward or dragging you down. Energy is contagious. If you surround yourself with complainers, you'll find yourself complaining. If you surround yourself with people who settle, you'll start lowering your standards. But if you intentionally build a circle of those who challenge you, who inspire you, who live with integrity and purpose, you'll naturally rise to their level. This isn't about arrogance or judgment. It's about alignment. Not everyone can walk with you into your future. Some were meant only for a chapter, not the whole book. And if you keep clinging to people who drain you, you will never have the strength to build the life you're meant to live.
Environment is also physical. Look at your space. Is it cluttered, chaotic, uninspiring, or is it a place that encourages focus, creativity, and peace? Your surroundings reflect your state of mind, and they also feed back into it. A messy environment often breeds a messy headspace, while a clean and intentional space supports clarity and discipline. Rebuilding yourself means taking control of your physical world, even in small ways. Create a room that inspires you, build routines that ground you, protect spaces where you can breathe, think, and grow. And then there are the unseen environments, what you consume, the music you listen to, the shows you binge, the accounts you scroll past on social media. They all influence your subconscious. Every input plants a seed, and those seeds eventually grow into thoughts, habits, and beliefs. If you keep feeding yourself negativity, you will find it hard to live with optimism. But if you choose content that fuels growth, wisdom, and resilience, your mind will begin to align with the person you want to become.
This doesn't mean you need a perfect environment. Life is rarely perfect, but it does mean being intentional. If you want to change your life, you cannot keep walking into the same rooms, having the same conversations, repeating the same cycles, and expecting a different result. You need to audit your environment. Ask yourself, who around me makes me feel alive? What spaces energize me? What inputs expand me? And then ask the harder questions. Who drains me? What places make me shrink? What habits rob me of my energy? The answers to those questions are the blueprint for your rebuilding, because you cannot grow into your highest self in an environment built for your lowest self. The soil that supported your old identity will not support your new one. Transformation requires new surroundings, new energy, new voices, and new habits. So in 2025, guard your environment like your future depends on it, because it does. Choose people who elevate you. Create spaces that inspire you. Consume content that feeds your soul instead of numbing it. Align every piece of your environment with the person you are becoming, because when your surroundings support your growth, the rebuilding process no longer feels like a battle. It becomes the natural evolution of who you are. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth. Every time you step into a moment that feels uncertain, painful, or intimidating, you are standing at the edge of transformation. Yet most people spend their lives running from it. They stay in jobs that drain them, relationships that limit them, habits that keep them stagnant, all because it feels safer than facing the unknown. But if you want to rebuild yourself in 2025, you have to stop treating discomfort as the enemy and start treating it as your greatest teacher. Discomfort is not punishment, it's feedback. It tells you that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone, that you're doing something unfamiliar, that you're building new muscles physically, mentally, emotionally. Think about exercise. The weight feels heavy, the muscles burn, the breath shortens. Yet in that strain, the body grows stronger. Without the discomfort of resistance, strength would never exist. The same applies to life. If you only choose the easy path, you remain the same. But if you lean into the discomfort, you evolve.
The truth is, the life you want is on the other side of the discomfort you're avoiding. The dream you hold, the confidence you crave, the freedom you long for, all of it requires you to walk through moments that will test you. You will be asked to face rejection, to risk failure, to confront your fears. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable, but that discomfort is proof that you're alive, that you're growing, that you're rewriting the limits you once thought defined you.
Instead of running, reframe it. When discomfort shows up, say, this is the feeling of transformation. This is the stretch required for me to become who I'm meant to be. The more you expose yourself to discomfort intentionally, the more resilient you become. What once terrified you becomes normal. What once seemed impossible becomes achievable. Growth compounds with every step you take into the unknown.
So in 2025, stop chasing comfort. It won't give you the life you desire. Choose the hard conversation. Take the leap you've been avoiding. Push your body, challenge your mind, stretch your spirit. Let discomfort be the fire that forges you. Because if you want to rebuild, you cannot escape the struggle. You must embrace it.
Your health is not a side project. It is the foundation of everything you will build in 2025. Too often, people chase success, wealth, or recognition while neglecting their bodies, their minds, and their spirit. But you cannot sustain greatness on a broken vessel. Rebuilding yourself requires aligning the three pillars of health: physical, mental, and spiritual. When one is neglected, the entire structure begins to crumble. But when they work in harmony, you become unstoppable. Start with the body. Your body is not just flesh and bone. It is the engine through which your potential flows. Treat it with care. Nourish it with real food, not quick fixes. Move it daily, not because you're chasing a number on a scale, but because motion keeps you alive, vibrant, and capable. Rest it when it needs recovery, because growth happens in restoration just as much as in action. The stronger and healthier your body becomes, the more energy you have to show up fully in every area of life. Then, tend to your mind.
Mental health is often invisible, but it governs everything. The thoughts you allow to take root will shape the reality you live in. If you feed your mind with fear, doubt, and negativity, you'll build walls around your own potential. But if you feed it with learning, resilience, and perspective, you'll find yourself breaking barriers you once thought impossible. Daily practices like meditation, journaling, or simply unplugging from toxic influences give your mind the space to breathe and reset.
And finally, nurture your spirit. You are more than what can be measured or seen. Whether you connect through prayer, gratitude, or simply moments of awe, your spirit needs fuel just as much as your body and mind do. Spiritual health anchors you in meaning. It reminds you that your life isn't just about consumption or achievement, but about contribution, love, and purpose. Health is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about asking yourself daily, am I caring for the body that carries me, the mind that shapes me, and the spirit that guides me? Because the truth is simple. You cannot rebuild on a weak foundation. But when health becomes your priority, it gives you the strength, clarity, and resilience to create a life that thrives in every dimension. Silence is not empty. It's full of answers. In a world that never stops talking, rebuilding yourself in 2025 will require stepping away from the noise. Every notification, every headline, every voice telling you what you should do or who you should be is pulling you further from yourself. But solitude is where the rebuilding begins. It's in those quiet moments when the world fades into the background that you finally hear the voice within. And that voice is the most important compass you'll ever have.
Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the ache of being disconnected from others. Solitude is the gift of reconnecting with yourself. When you choose to be alone intentionally, you create space to reflect, to feel, and to reset. You begin to notice the patterns you've ignored, the dreams you've silenced, the wounds you've buried under constant distraction. Solitude gives you clarity about what truly matters, clarity about what needs to change, clarity about who you want to become. Without it, you risk building your life on someone else's blueprint, chasing goals that don't belong to you. In solitude, you also confront your shadows, the insecurities, the fears, the doubts. They rise up when you're alone because there's nothing left to distract you. But facing them is how you heal. Solitude gives you the chance to sit with your pain long enough to understand it instead of numbing it with noise. And in that understanding, you find strength. You realize you don't have to run from your thoughts. You don't have to be afraid of your own company. You are enough as you are in the silence. The world glorifies busyness, but busyness doesn't equal progress. Solitude helps you remember that being still is not the same as being stuck. Sometimes the most powerful step forward is to pause, breathe, and listen. When you return from solitude, you bring with you a renewed perspective, sharper focus, and deeper peace. You're no longer reactive to life, you're intentional.
So give yourself permission to unplug. Walk in nature without your phone. Sit in silence for 10 minutes each morning. Journal without editing yourself. Protect that sacred space fiercely, because it is in solitude that you dismantle the noise of the world and rebuild the voice of your soul.
Motivation is fleeting. It comes in bursts, an inspiring video, a powerful book, a surge of excitement when you set a new goal. But just as quickly as it arrives, it fades. That's why so many people start strong in January and feel defeated by March. They rely on motivation, thinking it will carry them all the way through. But real transformation doesn't come from motivation. It comes from discipline. Discipline is the quiet force that shows up long after the fire of inspiration burns out. It's the practice of doing what needs to be done, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 will not be about grand gestures or short-lived bursts of energy. It will be about the daily, unglamorous choices you make, waking up earlier than your excuses, saying no to habits that drain you, choosing the workout when your body says stay in bed, choosing the healthier meal when your cravings scream otherwise, choosing to write, study, build, or practice, even when no one is watching and no applause is guaranteed. Discipline doesn't ask you to feel like it. Discipline asks you to commit to it. When you depend on motivation, your progress becomes inconsistent. But when you anchor yourself in discipline, you become unstoppable. Think of athletes, musicians, creators, or leaders you admire. They don't rise to greatness because they always feel inspired. They rise because they have trained their minds and bodies to show up regardless of mood. That's the power of discipline. It rewires your brain to operate from commitment instead of emotion.
And here's the irony. Discipline eventually gives you the motivation you were searching for. The more you keep promises to yourself, the more confident you become, the more consistent you are, the more results you see. Results fuel belief, and belief fuels momentum. Suddenly, you don't need a motivational speech to push you forward. Your own progress becomes the fire that sustains you.
So as you rebuild in 2025, let discipline become your foundation. Don't wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, or the perfect conditions. Just start and keep going, day by day, brick by brick, choice by choice. Because discipline isn't just what transforms you, it's what sustains the transformation long after motivation fades. One of the greatest obstacles to rebuilding yourself is the weight of your old identity. We walk through life clinging to labels: student, professional, spouse, parent, failure, success, victim, survivor, and we let those labels become cages. We say, "This is just who I am," as if our past choices have the authority to dictate our future. But who you were yesterday is not a life sentence. It is a chapter, not the whole book. If you want to rebuild in 2025, you must be willing to detach from the version of yourself that no longer serves the person you are becoming.
Think about it. A snake cannot grow without shedding its skin. That old layer becomes too tight, too restricting, too small for the body that wants to expand. In the same way, your old identity, those stories you keep replaying in your head, are skins you've outgrown. They may have protected you once, they may have been necessary for survival, but now they suffocate you. Rebuilding yourself requires courage to peel back those layers and say, "I am not my past. I am not my mistakes. I am not even my accomplishments. I am a work in progress, constantly becoming." Detachment doesn't mean dishonoring where you've been. It means honoring it enough to let it go. It means recognizing that the person you were needed to exist, so the person you are now could emerge. But if you keep gripping that old version of yourself, you will never step into the fullness of your future. The identity you built to survive last year cannot be the identity that carries you into your breakthrough this year. So ask yourself, what stories do you keep telling about who you are? "I'm not good enough. I always fail. I'm just not that type of person." These are not truths. They are narratives. And the beautiful thing about narratives is that they can be rewritten. In fact, they must be rewritten if you want to step into transformation. Rebuilding starts with a declaration: I am free to be new. I am free to evolve. I am free to shed the old and embrace the unknown. The moment you release the grip on who you were, you open space for who you can become. And that version of you, the one unbound by labels, free from yesterday's chains, is the one that will carry you into a life you once thought impossible.